expand globally. Long curly hair and a beard, but he ain't Toby Keith. You might have thought it's beef, but we gon' handle that. Stealing jerseys off of the wall like fuck Vanderjack. Okay, he ran with that, and now he's on the loose. Put a little bit of poison in his Jamba Juice. Go ahead and drink on that, just take another sip. Need an appraisal, shout out to Ron Huffin' Dick. The kids loving this, I know you heard it, son. The purpose is perfect, every person we learn something from. Go ahead and come along, we have a little fun. A few questions, how about 31?
Yes, we are back. It's another day, another 31, another podcast for my friends. Coming to you from the Content Factory. We got another good one for you guys today. It's my buddy Dave Landau, who I butcher his intro. You'll hear in a second. I just listened to it. I was like, "Are you all right? You fucking." I'm insecure about my veneers. Sometimes I can't say like S's and I'm just an idiot, as you guys know. So I never, when people take the time to be on the podcast, I never want to butcher their name or credits. But I butcher this pretty bad. But he's a good dude and he has great stories. This is another very fun one. We'll keep this short up front. I ramble too much on these about fucking viruses and Patreons and books. So everybody, Patreons, thank you guys. I love you guys. Everybody that reached out and got a book, thank you guys. I'm so excited to send them off and send the stickers off and send the notes. And it's, I'm making money. I'm making more than I would as a comedian, so it's good. I mean, it's still not shit, but it's still, I'm surviving. So I was very scared when all these gigs got canceled. So just that quick shout out up front. Thank you guys for continuing to support. The numbers are great. I mean, we're getting big numbers every day. We're obviously going to have our biggest month ever due to the fact we put out the most episodes we've ever had it, but I don't care. Like I said, I enjoy people sending me notes and saying that they're having fun. We added to the soundboard. You guys want to hear some new sounds?
Sweep the legs.
Sweep the legs here. We got a dog. I just tried to record a episode of Craigslist Chaos, but
how bizarre is this?
It was just shit. I just kept hitting voicemails, and I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm not going to give you guys a shitty episode. I'm just going to scrap it, and I'll try again tomorrow. But the good news was today I did have an interview with Brad Garrett, which was awesome. Unfortunately, it was only 45 minutes, and I'll go into that on the Brad episode. But, man, he told some really cool stories. Just a super cool dude. And I actually met Dave Landau working at Brad's club. So Dave's got some great stories. This is a great episode. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Healthy, wash your hands, all the bullshit I'm supposed to say. You know I love you guys, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Here we go. Dave Landau, and just ignore this brutal intro by this fucking idiot named Brandt Tobler.
Cool.
And we are back. It's another day stuck inside with another day of fun content. I'm excited for this episode. My guest today, you've seen him on Comedy Central, and he's the co-host of the Anthony Cumia show, and he just recently had the #1 album on iTunes called Nimble Fingers, so go listen to it. Go pick it up. My buddy Dave Landau. I went David like my middle name. Is David the full name or no?
David is the full name,
okay.
Yeah. And then the middle name is Thomas, so I don't think my parents were aware of the Wendy's guy.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so I got kind of screwed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. David, because I hate my dad, but that's, it's so weird I said that because I avoid that name. I wanted to change. Maybe I'll change my middle name to Thomas.
I think that's why I go by Dave. Is because David is that 2-syllable like parent screaming at you thing.
Yeah,
like people say they love the sound of their own name, and it's like I hate my actual name.
Yeah, that word. I got to change my middle name at some point. We'll see. But how you doing? Everything good?
Good, man. Doing what I can. I'm lucky to have the radio gig. I'm staying at Anthony's to do it, so. We're doing it from his house now just to get it out there because there's no way we're going into Manhattan during this. So I've just sort of abandoned my apartment for the time being.
Well, I'm sure Anthony's house isn't too bad. I'm sure you're just chilling and safe out there.
Oh yeah, it's bigger and ridiculous. It's fantastic. So, yeah. It could be a lot worse.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's awesome. Well, I'm glad. Thanks for doing this. I know you're busy. I've been trying to run you down, but you're a busy ass man, which is good. So it took a coronavirus, but I'm glad to have you. So here we go. We'll start with question one, an easy one for you. Where are you from, and where's the best place to eat in your hometown?
I'm from Detroit, Michigan, but I grew up in kind of a suburb of it, Grosse Pointe Woods, and my favorite place to eat there is my friend's bar, Telly's.
Telly's?
Yeah, Telly's. It's just it's a great hangout.
What do you order?
I go with the slam dunk, which is kind of like a Philly cheesesteak sort of a thing.
Uh-huh.
And that's the place. I don't know, for some reason, that's just the place I like to go.
Has he ever tried to do comedy in that bar?
He wants to. He's done bands before. And he's my best friend. Like, he grew up in, the house. I've known him forever. Like, he's my oldest friend, I should say, so I don't sound like a teen girl. But he's my oldest friend, and let's not do comedy.
Yeah, that was my test of how good a friend he really is, and the fact you're like, I've never put him through that. I was like, damn, this is your best friend right here.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, speaking of your childhood, what was your favorite toy as a child?
Oh boy, I got to think back on that. I'm gonna go with my Proton pack that came with a Ghostbuster trap as well.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great toy.
Oh, dude, I loved it. It had like the Nerf thing that came out that made it look like it was shooting the stream.
Which is dope.
So, yeah, that thing was awesome.
That's awesome. All right, now as an adult, what did you do on your 21st birthday?
Oh, wow. That was my 19th. 21st, my friends brought me to every bar legally, got me completely shit-faced and blacked out, and I don't remember most of it. It started at a bar called Excalibur in Detroit, and it ended with me waking up in my bedroom.
Oh, well, that's good. You made it home at least.
Yeah. I don't remember the big gray area there.
Yeah.
But, I remember like the 20th shot, and then I remember being home.
Oh. I can't run like that anymore. Well, what did you have a fake ID? No. Were you able to get in the bars earlier?
Yeah, we were. And then being on the border of Detroit, you could kind of drink at a lot of places. They just charge you a little extra. So right on the border of this place, of our city, was a place called City Limits Bar, which was the end of Detroit. So you could cross into Detroit from Grosse Pointe and just get shit-faced at a bar anytime. They didn't check ID or anything, and it was just you had to avoid the cops that were 20 feet away.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you just like drive the other way and then take the freeway, so it's like like turned right into the ghetto. So it was like nice area, an immediate ghetto, and that's where the bar was.
Well, I like this.
But yeah, I had fakes. Sorry.
I like that's fair. I just like the strategy of like, yeah, we'll let you in. You're just gonna have to pay more. Because shit, when I was underage, I would have paid $10 for a Bud Light. I didn't give a shit.
Oh, it was great. I had a pretty effective ID. Like, I could drink at like some Applebee's and stuff. But I would go into the hood a lot, and I had a fake ID, and they charged me like, I don't know, $40 for a 30-pack of like Beast, some dog shit. So I always thought that I was getting away with it, and then when I turned 21 and realized the price of beer, I was like, oh, they were just ripping me off the whole time.
Yeah. Well, everybody got what they want, so it's good.
Yeah, it worked out.
What about karaoke? Would you got a go-to karaoke song?
In the Ghetto, Elvis.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
You're fearless with karaoke? Will you do it whenever? Or?
No, I'm not a karaoke guy, but if I get asked to do it, I'll do a song that brings the whole room down.
Yeah.
So that's why it's always been my go-to.
I like it. That's a new strategy. Like, okay, I'll do it, and then you'll just never ask me to do it again because I'll play the worst song. Yeah.
I've actually, honest to God, walked people from a fucking karaoke bar. It's great.
I love it. When's the first time you asked for an autograph from somebody?
I was probably about 6, and it was Chet Lemon of the Detroit Tigers.
Yeah.
And then when I remember I was 7, my brother went up to Kirk Gibson. And that was like the first guy we saw outside, and he asked for an autograph, and the guy goes, "Fuck you." and my brother had baseball, and he showed it to my dad, and my dad went over and came back with Kirk Gibson's autograph.
Oh, yeah?
But, yeah, I've heard he was a real dick back then, though, and he's changed his ways now. But, I knew he was a real dick. He told a 7-year-old to fuck off.
Yeah.
But, yeah, the first one for me, it was Chet Lemon.
That's funny. You still have it?
I do. I have a picture with him. Like, it was one of those. I was like at the Tiger game, and we showed up early. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I don't know how much I asked or how much it was just part of it. You know. So that I do have the picture. Like, I'd say the first time I ever ran up and asked for an autograph on my own, I was 16. And I ran up to Sergei Fedorov, who was pumping gas in Detroit, in a Porsche, and I ran up and I had it on the back of my math homework.
Oh, nice.
And I said, yeah. I was like, "Hey, would you sign this?" And he signed it real quick. And there's this really beautiful blonde woman in the front seat, and she goes, "You want mine too?" And I go, "Why would I want your autograph?" And I walked back, and it turned out that was Anna Kournikova. So I simultaneously met Sergei Fedorov and shit on Anna Kournikova, and I had no idea who she was.
Well, that's one of your claims to fame. I think you're the only guy in the world that's just like, "Nah, I'm good. I'd rather talk to this Russian dude."
It's like, why would I? I mean, it's like, yeah, why do I want your trophy wife's autograph?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What's the most recent thing you've learned?
Oh, wow. Honestly, as depressing as it sounds, that you can try to lock down a country over the sniffles.
Yeah.
Yeah. As bad as that sounds, that's it.
Yeah.
Never experienced anything like this.
What? So you guys aren't even going into Manhattan? Because I'm curious, how bad is Manhattan? Is it, how locked down could it really be?
It's interesting because you can't actually lock people in. You know, you just want people to follow the rules, but it's not completely locked down. But if you do take a picture in Times Square, it's almost no one. It's almost like I Am Legend.
Yeah.
And just because people are stacked on top of each other and the virus is so contagious, I'd rather just, kind of go back and forth, to my family and stuff. So
yeah,
it's a high risk area right now. The highest risk in the country.
Yeah. That's what my girlfriend and I were talking about. I was like, they can lock it down, but some people are going to take everybody to jail and shit. And so I was like, they're letting people out of jail. They're not going to get you for jaywalking with coronavirus. Yeah. So I was like, we got to hope for the best, but some of the shit you can't keep everybody in New York inside. That's impossible.
No, they 7% of the police force called off, which was like 2,600 people. And then on top of that, they let out 100 people who they're nonviolent crimes. And it's like, well, no, there's a rapist, but he's just on his last year. So is that really the best idea?
Yeah.
Lock women and children in their homes and then open up open up the gates to Rutgers Island.
Yeah, while the police are taking a day off. This is perfect.
Yeah. It's astonishing. Yeah.
What's the most money or coolest thing you've ever won?
I gotta say the most money I ever won was $5,000 at the MGM.
Nice.
Yeah, that was a good weekend because I had lost all the money that I was supposed to make before that. So I guess 3,500 or like that or something. And I guess simultaneously the coolest thing I ever won was autograph Richard Linkletter, the guy who directed Dazed and Confused, an autograph of him. The movie Boyhood on DVD in a glass case signed by him. That was how'd you, just a raffle or how'd you win that? I was doing the Omaha Funny Bone, and the Omaha Film Festival was there, and they invited me. And yeah, it was just a raffle they were doing. That he was there and doing a conference, and that's what they were raffling off. And I think it was like $2 or something to enter it, and I ended up winning it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's
That's
pretty cool.
Yeah. How about what's the weirdest thing you've ever had happen with a roommate?
When I was living in LA in 2002, it was a little bit before I did comedy. We had a girl living with us, and we were going to all these various parties. And I was living with my friend Jimmy and my friend Mark. Mark's actually the head of Marvel now. It's crazy, but yeah. And Jimmy owns the bar I was talking about. So we were living with this girl, and we kept going to these different parties. And at every party we went to, somebody was crying because their purse was stolen. And this just kept happening and happening. And eventually, like, this is an odd coincidence. So we were on the roof of our apartment building in West Hollywood. And this girl's like, hey, wait a minute. That girl you were with just left, and I can't find my purse. So we go downstairs to a room where she's like pretending to sleep, and we open up her suitcase, and it is just filled with purses that she was just swiping at every party that we went to.
Holy
and
shit.
the girl comes in and is like, you stole my purse, you fucking bitch. And the girl who was our roommate charged at her. And my friend Jimmy's like standing in between. He doesn't know what to do. So like at the last minute, he puts his arm out to kind of just stop her.
Uh-huh.
But instead he clotheslines her, and she kind of like flips and lands back into a bunch of empty cans of Tecate. And then we threw the purse back at her. And the next day, my friend Mark was like, yeah, I bought you a plane ticket back to Detroit. You're not welcome here.
Oh shit.
And and we dropped her off at the airport, and it was a mess because we had to then call every single person, and who we knew. Some of them we were like, I guess we're just going to leave it in the door. I don't know.
Ugh, that sucks.
Yeah. That was definitely bizarre.
She was a Detroit girl that just came out with you guys, or she just met you guys out there?
She was a girl we knew. She had worked with my buddy at a place called the Chicken Shack, and she decided that she wanted to move there. We were kind of just living there for the summer. Like, we first lived in Boulder, Colorado for like a month.
Uh-huh.
And that was a blast. And then we decided to move to Westwood. Like, we were really just, I don't even know how we were supporting ourselves. I think we were just selling dope. But like, we got there, and Mark worked at like Red Lobster and was doing an internship at the time. It was called Endeavor, which became William Morris Endeavor.
Uh-huh.
So he was there, and we just lived with him. So yeah, she came out just decided to live with us, and all she did was loot people.
No one ever thinks it's the hot chick.
No. Yeah, she never got blamed until there was 6 of us hanging out on the roof, and then all of a sudden she was gone, and so was a purse, and we were like, oh, this all adds up now.
Yeah, she's got balls. Wait, so now your buddy runs Marvel? Like, what do you mean, all the movies, or like?
Yeah, he's one of the people at Marvel he runs more of the television side.
Wow.
It's a cool job. He used to he helped me get a couple things when I lived in LA because he was at Fox. But now he does the. I don't watch a ton of it. I watch the movies with my son. But there's a couple TV shows, and the ones on Netflix about I can't think of the name of the show, but it's a female superhero. Mm-hmm. He put out that, so he runs like the television side of Marvel.
That's awesome.
Yeah, dude, he went from like I remember him working at Red Lobster and interning for agents that were just screaming at each other. Like, he's really worked his way. He had a lot of patience.
That's great. Yeah, that's what you need.
Yeah.
So what you guys just said, we're out of Detroit. We're just going to Boulder. And then...
we were a lot of our friends were, like, my dad had died the year before, and a few friends were killed, and, like, it was just getting depressing, and we were like, let's just leave. And we did. And we just, went on the road and decided to go to we went to Boulder first because we had a friend who had a house there, and we stayed with her. And it was the year where like the mountains were burning. So it was pretty crazy. Like every night you could just see like flames and stuff, and we were just partying. And then after that, our friend was like, hey, I have an internship. If anybody wants to live with me, I have a 2-bedroom apartment. And we were like, yeah, we'll both live with you. And then we ended up having Jimmy's brother at one point living with us. And like, it was probably like 5 of us in this apartment. Yeah. Until one day the landlord walked in and it was just trashed and like, you know, empty cans everywhere. And I was lighting a bowl as he walked in, and we all got evicted.
Yeah, that's the West Hollywood way, man. We had so many people we had built in our living room, we had built like a wall for another bedroom. And then when the roommate or when the landlord would come, we'd have to tear down this wall and then hide it like in the neighbor's like carport. And then when he wouldn't, we'd have to put the wall. I mean, it was such a we had people sleeping all over the place.
That's hilarious. Yeah, it really was like, and it wasn't just us. Like for us, it was, you see families doing it and stuff too. You know, the exact same thing. Like we knew there was like 8 people that lived in the apartment next door, and we've just all shut up about each other.
Yeah, everybody watched each other's back. That's how we were too, because we had crazy Russian landlords. We were like, oh fuck, here they come. They were so loud. We're like, oh, they're here. God.
Yep. Yeah.
Do you collect anything?
I do collect some movie memorabilia and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. That was kind of what I do. If I could, I would collect cars, but I kind of just try to buy a nice one here and there. But just kind of movie stuff, you know, movie memorabilia, or even just pictures. Like I remember SNL, I ordered a bunch of like pictures of like Eddie Murphy and people that I was a fan of, because they just were like auctioning them off. Mm-hmm. So I just like to collect weird show business stuff, I guess I should say.
What about, do you save any of your comedy stuff?
I used to. I don't really anymore, unless it's something kind of special. Like if I, you know, do like somebody sends me a picture, like the album cover they designed or whatever it is, I'll save some of that. For years I did. Like I have a lot of stuff from my first few years of like an ad that says like Stephen Wright with Dave Landau, which my name has no business being that big next to his. You know, I'm doing like 15 minutes because I'm lucky enough. So I have some cool old stuff like that.
That's cool. Where's the worst place you've ever had to sleep?
Oh, well, my driveway many times on accident. But then also solitary confinement. I guess I have 4 answers: a mental hospital, and those. I guess those would be the top 3.
Jesus, yeah.
And then the back seat of my car with a taser when I first started doing comedy because I couldn't afford a hotel.
Oh, that was your protection, was the taser?
Yeah, a friend gave me, and it wasn't even like a shooting taser; it was more of a stun gun. Uh-huh. And I would be like in the middle of like North Carolina, at like a rest area, like hidden in the backseat of a Cavalier.
Oh, this comedy life!
Oh, it's so lavish.
Yeah. Well, you've kind of segued to one of our other questions on here. Have you ever been arrested? So.
Yes, 13 times actually, and then charged 7.
Holy shit! Wait, what got you in solitary confinement?
I was arrested. This is actually when I was 27. My final arrest before I got cleaned up. There was a guy in there who had beaten his wife, and he was crying all night that his wife would leave him. And this guy was way bigger than me and could have killed me. And I was just so angry. I was like, shut the fuck up. I'm going to fucking kill you, you fucking piece of shit. Like, I just kept saying horrible stuff to him. And he's like, why? Do you think she's going to leave me? I'm like, yeah, probably, because you fucking punch her all the time, you piece of shit. And the next thing I know, they open up. It's a female cop, and she opens up and goes, you need to come with me. You've just threatened to kill him. We have it on video. And I was like, okay. And as we're walking, she goes, hey, don't worry, I'm going to delete that video. But protocol is I just got to bring you into solitary. It's between us. And I was like, oh, thank you. Because it was a wife beater. She didn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
So she took my shoelaces, though, and my belt. And then I had to sit in solitary, it was very bizarre, this one, because it was like a glass box almost, like that Hannibal Lecter thing. I mean, on a much smaller scale. So it was just like a cot with no sheets or anything, and just in a glass box where they could observe you, it was a terrible night.
Oh, you just had to do one night?
That was just one night, yeah, that I ended up staying there. And then the next morning they took my mugshot picture, which I have made calendars out of and all this stuff now. But it's like, my mugshot, I look a lot like El Chapo for some reason. And I guess it was pulled out of the ground there. And after that, and my eyes are just dead. Like, you can tell that there's some cocaine involved. And after that, I just, like, once I saw myself, I'm like, I really got to clean up.
That was the turning point, huh?
Yeah. And it was, and you know, the benefit of growing up in Detroit and being in Detroit, as bad as it sounds, is being white, they won't really put you in jail for too long. Like, you know, Stanley, he's a good friend of mine, Mike Stanley. Yeah. And he's a good friend of mine. You guys do your show together. And like, he's the same thing. Like, he's been arrested a couple times, and they'll put you away for a couple days, a few days, you know, but they really want to avoid putting you in prison because it's just, you're going to get the shit kicked out of you by the actual gangs that are in that city.
Yeah, I can't imagine how shitty it is to go to jail in Detroit.
It's the worst.
They say, like, just walking around in the good part of Detroit's bad. I can't imagine jail.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
they like be careful in Auburn Hills. I can't imagine jail.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
Yeah, I think you might be this is like episode 202. I think Detroit jail might be the winner of that question. Well, this leads into our other question. What moment in life were you the most scared?
I had a gun pulled on me. There's this place called Bewick in Detroit that was by Connor City Airport, and it was a big field. And we pulled up in my friend Keith's giant van, and I was by far the smallest one in the car, but I was a freshman, so I had to go up to the door to get drugs. And when I walked up to the door, they pulled me in the house, shoved a gun in my mouth, and asked if I was a cop. And I'm just like, what the fuck? And I'm not. And
I'm a freshman.
Exactly. I'm 15. And I look over, and there's just a dude who's like iced out, getting blown, and there's all these drugs everywhere, and this dude's got a gun in my mouth. And that's when, this is for weed, but clearly they were selling arms and coke and all this other shit. Because I mean, it was like this almost standalone Addams Family looking house in the middle of a field, like really, like. And at the time, this is the '90s, and the east side of Detroit, it was, besides maybe Louisiana, it was the worst place you could be, you know, besides New Orleans. And I was utterly terrified. And the guy was like, all right, man. And then he just ended up selling me a few 20 sacks. And oddly enough, I went back to the house several times, and they knew me and opened the door and would sell me through the door. But that day that was probably the most scared I ever was.
Yeah, no shit. I
don't think I had ever been in a trap house either at that point.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it was at least not like like one where there was like a white dealer who's like 20 in his apartment. But I mean, this was like the real deal.
No, it's
hood house.
It's scary listening to that story. I'm just like, oh,
thank you.
And I just love it. He's like, are you a cop? You're like, no, I'm a freshman.
Exactly. Yes. It's like, what am I, Officer Dookie Howser? Like, clearly I'm not fucking, it's not 21 Jump Street. It's so weird. It's so weird because weed's legal where you are and legal there. It's like the shit we had to go through.
Oh, shit. What's the one embarrassing story your family always tells about you?
Probably the day I got my driver's license. We were having a family reunion, and I wrapped my dad's car around a tree in a high-speed chase.
Oh, shit.
And my cousins were visiting, and my one cousin from Arizona was with us. And they still to this day talk about that, because what happened was they came home, and my aunt had actually blocked our driveway with her Jeep, so we couldn't get out. She had a feeling we were going to ask for the car because I just got my license. So to the left of the Jeep was my neighbor's house. So the houses are pretty close in Detroit. And it had like a little garden and a pine tree and that sort of stuff. And to the right was my front porch, so I couldn't go that way. So I figured if I gingerly just backed out, I could just go over all that stuff. So I destroyed my neighbor's front lawn, and then took the car out, ended up doing lawn jobs, just going up on a lawn, brake torquing, spinning, doing donuts. And at one point and we're all drunk and shit, and there was a guy sitting in his car, and I had my dad's brand new Buick Regal, and they had a BMW 5 Series. So my car was fast, but theirs was much faster. And we ended up in this high-speed chase, and there's a tree that I didn't see because it took a very sudden, left turn. And it went up on the curb, slammed into the tree. Everybody ran except me because the airbag had knocked me unconscious. And and I wrote a note gonna be at the movies, and and it
gonna be in a movie, more like
yeah. And it turned out my uncle and my dad were driving around all night, because in the back of in the trunk, which I never checked, it was filled with beer and potato chips and liquor. So when I hit the tree, the trunk popped open, and there was a mile of just liquor and potato, like a Super Bowl party smashed into a tree. And that's the one that still to this day my aunts will bring up, especially my cousin who is from Arizona. Every time I see his mom, it gets brought up.
Well, had he ever gotten in trouble or anything before? Or was that the first time he was just went wild with you?
That was the first time he ever went wild, and it was the first time I had ever been caught for anything. So it was a twofer.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. So that's the one they tell quite a bit.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one.
Yeah, it's not bad.
What's the best costume you've ever worn?
Oh, my favorite was one Halloween I did Casual Hitler, where I just wore a Nike jumpsuit and had a little mustache, and then parted my hair on the side, and it was just Casual Hitler.
Did you win any contests or anything? That's a pretty good. At least you don't have to worry about having the same costume as somebody.
Yeah, no, I pretty much just offended several people, but for the most part, people thought it was hilarious. So
that's a good.
It was years ago, a little bit before all the PC boom.
Yeah, you might not want to do it this year, but who knows?
Well, I gotta ask, what was yours? You have to have one.
Man, what sucked is in LA, everyone was too cool for outfits. But I remember I'm trying to think, when I had a kid, my mom dressed me up like a computer, washing machine. I don't know what it was, like a machine, like a robot. And I won the,
that's awesome.
I won the contest in the mall at this store called Joslin's. I won $50. And I just remember I guess it was technically a robot, but I won that. But then as an adult, I didn't. The one I think about is, we'll talk about a different time, but my best friend Justin, I was going through my pictures the other day, and he went all blackface, huge dick. And this is maybe 2006, to a party at the Hard Rock in Vegas when we lived in Vegas. And he went, full paint, just black man with a huge dick. And it crushed. People took a million pictures with him. At the time, it was super funny. It probably cost him his job now, but he just went in. And but no, I haven't. It's the bad part about stand up is that I haven't done any Halloween stuff because I've been doing shows. I'm trying to think. Even the last time I dressed up is I just
Yeah, that was probably a decade ago. Well, 15 years ago, maybe for me when I did that. 'Cause I was old enough to drink at a bar, but I wasn't like I was kind of working as a comic, but I was still like early 20s, you know.
Yeah, I'm always.
Yeah, it's funny.
I'm trying to. I had a plan. Well, it's like a dumb joke I wrote in my head, but I was gonna be like. The costume I want to do is just be the do you want your receipt button at an ATM, because that shit's like the scariest thing to me. But I kind of wrote it as a joke, but I don't know how to make it a costume, because whenever, as a comic, I never have any money. So it's like, or do you want to check your balance is what I meant. Do you want to check your balance button? I'm like, absolutely, that's the scariest button in the world. But I don't know how to translate that into something funny. So
that is hilarious.
Maybe this year I'll work on that. But
it's hilarious. Yeah. That's funny about the blackface thing too, because I have a picture of my friends and I, which I'll probably never put out, but it's me as a hobo, a bum, and he's blackface Urkel, which was totally acceptable.
Yeah.
But now would be the worst thing you could do.
I have one that I sent to my buddy when he was just full. He's like pretty high up in the Navy too, and he'd be fully fired probably, but just full out basketball player with an afro, jersey, holding a basketball, just black from head to toe, and it crushed. Like you said, I mean, it's a different time, but and nobody at the time, half our friends were black then. They thought it was, nobody had a problem with it. Everybody thought it was hilarious. Like, oh shit, you look like a black guy. But
you'd have in Detroit, you'd have the black kids wearing like white face if they were going as like a Ghostbuster or whatever. So it's like, I guess it wasn't really considered. Thought of then, especially when you were a kid, you were just trying to be authentic. That was all the thought behind it was, Yeah,
well, don't be authentic now. Just go buy whatever, buy your son whatever's at the store, the safest.
Oh, absolutely.
What city do you hope you never have to go to again?
Oh boy. Let me think on that. Well, it's more of a club,
which is fine. Which is most comics' answer.
Yeah, I would say because of the Stardome, Birmingham, Alabama. That was I. Other than almost being fired because a guy was wearing in the crowd, he was heckling me. And he was wearing a Dale Earnhardt shirt. And I said, I hope you have the same ride home as his last one, which upset everyone because at that point I might as well have just, shit on a cross. And then when I got to the hotel, there were lightning bugs all in my room. And I called down and they're like, well, it is that time of year, sir. And I was like, okay, but could I just have a room without lightning bugs? And they moved me to another room and it had lightning bugs. And I called down and they go, we'll send up an exterminator. I swear to God, the janitor shows up, and he walks in and he goes, you call exterminator? I go, yeah. He takes off a shoe, stands on my bed with his other shoe on it and just starts hitting the fucking lightning bugs under the ceiling. And when he gets down, he goes, all good, Your Highness. And I never felt like such a Yankee pussy. Like, I wish I had just never acknowledged it, because it was just lightning bug season, and this guy just wanted to kill me.
Well, I think they closed that place, so you're off the hook. You never have to go there, I think.
Oh, thank God.
That's funny.
I remember Mike was another guy who went there, and he's like, yeah, it's packed tonight. He put it on Twitter, and I'm like, I think I texted him right after, and I was like, hey man, that's not a good thing. He's like, really? I'm like, I'm telling you. He's like, that's the worst fucking set I've ever. I'm like, I know, it doesn't make sense. It's filled, like, because I actually like Birmingham, Alabama, but somehow they fill the room with the worst people from the city. It's insane to me.
Well, I liked the Earnhardt joke. I think it was great.
Thank you.
Well, is there a club that sticks out that's your favorite to go to besides like the obvious great ones?
I do. One that we did together, Brad Garrett's, I love.
Yeah.
And Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle in Detroit. And those are definitely two of my favorites.
You consider that one the home club?
That was my home club. Yeah, that and a club that was called Joey's in Livonia, which unfortunately shut down. But that one was really, really good when it was out. And the Ann Arbor Comedy Showcase is a really great room in Ann Arbor. It's getting a little like, that's a great, great club. But every now and then you get the college kid who shows up who just wants to be angry. But other than that, it's a perfect room.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, speaking of these shitty ones, how about like, what's your first like crazy Hollywood or New York City night when you're like, man, I can't believe I'm here hanging out with these people, or when you're just like, holy shit, this is crazy?
Does it have to be Hollywood?
No, or it could be anywhere, or Detroit, or anywhere.
Okay. I was 24, maybe. Yes, 2005. So 22 at the time. And I get a call from Mark Ridley, actually, and he's like, hey, what are you doing tonight? Do you want to open for Dave Chappelle? And this was like at his height. And he was my hero. And I was like, I was hungover as shit too. And I was like, yeah. I would love to do that. And I'm like, where am I going? And he's like, it's the Eastern Michigan basketball arena. And it was 7,000 people.
Holy shit.
And yeah, like after the show, Dave Chappelle came up to me and was like, you were electric, and like just hugged me. And I was just like, how the fuck, like 2 years ago, I was in like community college watching his TV show with friends. And somehow I had just lucked out that in this short amount of time, I was now like on stage with him playing arenas, which he doesn't even do anymore. He'll just do theaters, you know? And it's like, I got to open for him at like that height. And that was something that was like, because he was my hero. It was like the coolest thing imaginable.
That's so, and obviously you crushed it if he came and gave you a hug. And
yeah, it was funny. It went really well. I crushed for 15 minutes, and then I brought him out, and he didn't come out. So I said, I'll be right back. And I walk off, and his manager's like, he's not ready yet. And I'm like, okay, so what do I do? They're like, just go tell him it'll be a minute. These people are standing out of their seats.
Yeah.
So I go up, and I go, it's just going to be another minute. I went from 7,000 people loving me to booing me.
Yeah.
And then I get off stage, which the feeling of that is just, I went from the greatest feeling to the worst a human being could ever feel. And I walk off, and then I come back on, and I bring him out, and he goes crazy. And then he's like, you shouldn't have booed him, give it up for him. And then they clapped, and I was relieved. And this guy just yells, where were you? And he goes, I was watching a DVD, motherfucker. And that was his opening line.
Which I'm sure they loved.
Oh, they loved it. And then it was close to 3.5 hours he did. And just absolutely, and I sat on a nearby speaker and didn't move the whole time.
So he's the best. I mean, and he's the coolest, nicest. We always talk about on here how they say you don't want to meet your heroes unless it's comedians, because the bigger the fucking better for me.
I've been the same as you, man. I with the exception of like Michael Richards, everybody I've ever, well, and he fucked it up for himself anyway after that. But everybody who I ever had met that I looked up to has always been very cool to me.
That's awesome. Wait, Michael Richards was a dick?
Huge cock, yeah. Comedy and Magic Club.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was. You know, there's the 2 rooms there.
Mm-hmm.
I was hosting in the other room, and he goes, "Hey, Michael Richards is here." You know, the manager, Richard, goes, "Michael Richards is here. You can go get his intro. He's going to go up after Larry Miller." And mind you, there's like Larry Miller, Kevin Nealon. You know how that club is. Like, it's you always feel like, oh fuck, how am I here? This isn't, you know.
Well, and just nobody's a dickhead there. It's like the nicest, best comedy club environment probably I've ever been in.
Oh yeah, dude, 100%. They just immediately, it's, what can we get you to eat? Can we, you know, they're so nice. And I go, he's doing push-ups in that area between the 2 clubs, and I walk over and I go, hey, I just wanted, he goes, you see that I'm fucking busy? And I go, look, I'm sorry, I didn't. And he stands up and he brushes himself off. I go, I didn't mean to offend you. I'm hosting the show, and And I go to shake his hand. I go, I didn't want to get off on the wrong foot. He goes, looks at my hand. He goes, I don't do that.
Oh, God.
And I'm like, okay. I go, look, I just wanted to get your intro. And he goes, what the fuck do you think my intro is? Jesus. And I said, yeah. And I'm wondering, like, is he fucking with me? But then I turned from looking at this guy as a hero pretty quick to just like, well, you can go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
So I said, I go, I don't know. What do you want? Seinfeld? And he goes, oh, so I'm a wash up? And I go, well, this is why I'm asking you for an intro. You want me to say trial and error? And he goes, yeah, it's real funny. He goes, here's what you do. You go up on stage, you say, Miss Kramer from Seinfeld, and then you get off. You don't wait up there. You don't shake my hand. You get off that stage so I can get on. And after I'm done, you can go up once I'm off that stage. Do you get it? And I'm like, yeah.
Man.
So I go to bring him up on stage, and Larry just is killing. And then I go up and I decide I'm just going to do a couple minutes, my best jokes. Mm-hmm. And then I bring him up and I stood on stage with a shit-eating grin and my hand out, and I made him shake it.
Yeah.
And he gets up there and the crowd goes nuts. I mean, they are thrilled to see this guy, but I have never in my life seen somebody go from that reaction to just hated. I mean, he was so bad. I can't even explain. What he did was he pulled out a little cocktail sword from out of a cherry and was pretending to swashbuckle the air, saying that he used to be in like the army and all he had was a tiny little sword. And then and nobody was laughing. And he goes to say goodnight to this smattering of applause. And I ran up and tried to get another handshake, but I couldn't get it. He just like, he half patted my back, And I loved it because I was like, hey, everybody, wasn't that great? Isn't he good? and after, I think it was like Rodman or somebody, whoever it was, just came up and destroyed. But it was just funny because you could get the vibe from like Richard and everybody that they knew Michael was such a piece of shit, but didn't want to actually tell me. And it was honestly maybe 2 or 3 weeks later that I turned on the news and he was screaming the N-word on at the Laugh Factory over and over again. I could have jacked off. It was so great to watch.
Yeah, now he'd be dying to shake your hand.
No, I know. That's what it's like. Other than that, like I met Jerry, and people said he was a dick, and he's at Gotham, and he was very nice to me. I wouldn't say he was outwardly like super kind, but he certainly wasn't rude or in any way whatsoever.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you next. Who have you met in life that made you the most nervous?
Oh, wow. I don't know why it was, but it was even on YouTube, and I almost didn't talk through the entire interview. It was on our show. It was Andrew Dice Clay.
Oh, yeah?
And I have no idea why. I think it's just like when he came on, I had just seen him in A Star Is Born, and I wanted to really ask questions like, how did you get in a Lady Gaga movie with different politics? And every time and he's friends with Anthony and stuff, and every time I would ask a question, or if I asked that question, it was like, I don't want to talk about movies. And I was like, okay. And he's sitting there with like, he's got the big Elvis sideburns, but they're all gray, and the Everlast gloves that the fingers are cut off. And he just, I don't know if it's intimidating or whatever it is. It's just, he made me very uncomfortable. I hate to say that.
No, I get it. No, he could just be a dickhead.
Yeah.
He's scary. And all the stories I've heard, he's like, he just does stuff that he thinks is funny for him, but it's just like an asshole move.
Right. And even like Jim Norton was next to me, and Jim had opened for him for years. So Jim kind of reverted back to that opener position. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that was somebody who he had toured with, and then it was such a weird dynamic. And I've even had people say to me, like, why didn't you say anything during the Dice interview? Because people thought I was like on drugs or something. And I'm like, I was so uncomfortable. And anytime I spoke, he just said stuff that made me more uncomfortable. And then even later on that night, I saw him at the stand, and he just looked at me, and he knew who I was, and then he just kept going.
Yeah.
Like, even when he went to shake everybody's hand at the beginning, he shakes Jimmy's. He walks right by me, he goes, "I don't know you," and then he shakes Anthony's hand, and then he goes. And I realize it's a character, but then is it like what one is it? You know, is it the character or is it him?
It's just not a fun character to be around, honestly. Because I've been like in rooms with him, and I didn't even get close, or I could feel the vibe of like, oh, I'm not even gonna. I've made that not mistake when I've been around like somebody, and then I'll ask like a dumb question, and then I like if they're famous, you know, I'll ask. Like I remember one time I got to have dinner with Joe Rogan, like with a bunch of people, and I knew he loved pool. And then my friend like built this pool stick company, but I didn't really know enough about the company. And then I lobbed up this stupid question, and then of course Joe was nice about it, but then I was just like walking home like, oh, you're just. I learned early sometimes just stay the fuck out of the way. I know you want to ask, and that's how I felt around Dice, just because I was like, Dice, I'm gonna ask him something, and he's gonna be like The Rock and be like, it doesn't fucking matter what you. And I was like, okay, I'll just stay out of your way, Dice. But I totally get that. I wouldn't even, if I'd be scared to even get near him. I probably will never in my life.
That's really what it is.
I will be socially distancing myself from Dice the rest of my life.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, it's no problem. I'll never get corona from him. Yeah, and even like my wife, other people go, well, you could do you could say it's like a wash-up or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but I wouldn't do that to somebody on the show. And I don't like, the guy was extremely successful. Yeah. Like in the comedy world, I wouldn't look at anybody like that.
Yeah.
So my instinct wouldn't be to put him down, but his instinct is to like remind you how successful he was by being kind of a cock. And you're like, I think I'll just sit here and let you talk.
I saw like a comic. I don't know if this guy was a comic, but he said he was a comic sitting front row one night at Laugh Factory, and he said something to Dane Cook. Like, he's like, I remember when he used to be funny or something, and Dane Cook's like, what do you mean used to? Like, oh, you mean when I sold out Madison Square Garden? And he's like, yeah. He's like, but you'll never. That's just a trump card of like, oh yeah, okay, maybe I'm not still selling it out, but I fucking sold out Madison Square Garden. So, and that's how I feel. Dice would be like, he still is accomplished. He's still on fucking movies with Lady Gaga.
That's what I mean. And he did sell it out and reminded us 7 or 8 times in that interview. But it's why, like, yeah, he was just coming off a movie with Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga. I mean, I can't look at that like if somebody says that they're a wash-up, you're like, I don't think that's a wash-up if you're in a movie with 2 of the biggest stars on the planet.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this to all the fans listening. We're probably not going to have Dice on the 31 if that's what you're hoping for. Go maybe Marin or Rogan or somebody, but I doubt he'll ever say yes. So please don't tweet at him because I don't want him to rip us apart.
Yeah, exactly. We're like, put yourself in our shoes. If you ever met him, you would understand.
Yeah.
We're not insulting him. He's larger than life and was famous at a time where I don't think you can get that famous anymore.
Yeah, for sure.
Via just stand up, you know. I don't think it's possible to be as big as that guy was.
No. All right, let me give you a fun question. What's your go-to fast food order?
Oh, I'm gonna go McGriddles.
Nice.
That's bad. As lame as that is, if I'm going to get fast food, it's usually going to be McDonald's breakfast and probably McGriddles.
I like it. Trust me, I would eat McDonald's breakfast all day. I was so happy when they let us do that. I was like, I'll eat this shit all day long.
Oh, when it became on the late night menu, it was the greatest thing on earth.
Yep.
It's like you. How long did it take you guys to figure out that we loved that?
Yeah. And it can stop all these comics from being like, why can't you cook an Egg McMuffin in the afternoon? I don't know how many times I saw that bit. Like, what?
It was in the movie Big Daddy where they're like rushing to get, it was constantly made fun of.
Yeah. What's the best concert and sporting event you've ever been to?
The best concert I've ever been to was Gosh, I've been to a lot. I'm going to say Jason Isbell in Royal Oak 3 years ago, music-wise, by far that. And the other one I was blown away by was Alice Cooper, and it was a couple years ago as well.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I have three. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
And the third one was Springsteen was doing Broadway, which he ended up doing, and it was a 500-seat theater. And I'm like, it's a once in a lifetime thing. I'm a fan of the guy, and I saw him live, but it's such a giant arena that there's no intimacy. And I realized this is like a once in a lifetime thing. And my Derek Richards and I, actually, you know him. We got tickets and we decided to go, and it was just mind blowing because it was, he's like 10 feet away from you and he's telling stories of his youth and all that stuff. So, probably those three. And
wait, how'd you get that? Was that a tough ticket? I gotta imagine.
It was way too expensive because they were starting at, $100, but then everybody gets their hands in there, and then it was going up to like $2,000.
Yeah.
And then Derek and I were like, let's just wait till right before and see if we're able to get a ticket, maybe for somewhat cheaper. And I want to say we ended up getting them for about $700, which was compared to what people were paying. I mean, it was obscene, but it was a steal. And it was nothing that, like, I've paid that to see, like, close to that to see, like, when Guns N' Roses came back and kicked it off in Detroit. I paid $500 to sit in the 8th row because it was my favorite band as a kid.
Yeah.
So, it was worth every penny just to see it,
Of course. I tell my girlfriend all the time, we can make more money. Sometimes you just have to have the experience of seeing Springsteen 10 feet away. It's fucking incredible.
Yeah. Why even work for money if you don't want to do something cool like that when you have the opportunity?
Yeah.
And the two best games I've ever been to was, I guess I'd say that my favorite sporting game ever was the Pistons bad boy era.
Mm-hmm.
And it was when Rodman and Isaiah were both on the team, and they were doing almost like the Run DMC Crossbones like posters, and we were able to get an autograph one. And I was a kid, but I still remember watching them play out on the court, and just to see that at that time, even though I was pretty young, it still sticks in my memory. And I know they won the game, and to be honest, I can't even tell you who they were playing, but it's always just stood out because it was such an iconic time in basketball, and especially for Detroit.
Yeah.
That was probably my favorite I've ever been to.
That's awesome. Yeah. Those teams were so fun. A different time.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Much different era, and it was when you could, it's when you're playing Jordan versus Bird on NES, and Michael Jordan could fly. It's just a different time of sports where not everybody who played was this dynamic monster like it is now.
Yeah.
They were really people that stood out,
Yeah, for sure. Well, speaking of music, what song always makes you happy when you hear it?
I like somewhat depressing music in a way. So there is a song by Jason Isbell called Speed Trap Town. And for some reason, I just love the melody of it. And even though it is a very, very depressing song, it just makes me happy about where I'm at in life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's, I guess I would say, whenever I hear that, because it just, I'm just happy to hear when it like just pops on Spotify and surprises me.
Yeah. What's the greatest physical pain you've ever felt?
I was 19. I was making fun of my friend for being fat, and he decided to tackle me, and I was standing on a linoleum floor that keg beer was all over. And when he tackled me as a joke, my body went one way, and my knee and bottom of my leg went another.
Oh shit.
So I tore my meniscus and ACL, like every ligament. I busted off half my kneecap, and it was just swelling rapidly. And instead of going to the hospital, because I'm a smaller guy, two of my friends just put me on their shoulders and carried me around the party, and I continued to drink until the next morning when I woke up and realized my leg was completely fucked.
Oh, shit.
And then I tried to drive home with it. I'm sure I did a lot of the damage after the initial damage.
Uh-huh.
And then my friend Jimmy brought me to the hospital. It was like a Benny Hill thing. Like, he pulled me up to a door in a wheelchair, and it opened all of a sudden, and somebody hit me in the foot. My leg hit a drinking fountain. Like, I just kept getting more hurt. And yeah, by the time that they did it, they ended up having to put rods in my right knee. Damn. And I ended up going through a lot of rehabilitation, and I got hooked on Vicodin, and not on purpose. But when I ran, they gave me a lot of it. They like overprescribed it, and I kept doing it. I did it as prescribed, but I did it for a while. And the day that it ran out was also, I'd say, almost equal, because I was just like, I had a terrible busted leg, and at the same time I'm like vomiting and sweating and like having withdrawal. So like, yeah, that whole thing was probably the worst pain, like physical pain. Yeah. I would say.
Oh,
you know.
Yeah, that sounds awful.
Dude, it was the worst. I still have still to this day, every now and then people will notice that I limp. They're like, "You all right? You hurt?" I'm like, "No, I hurt myself long ago, but it wasn't a football injury or anything manly."
Yeah. Well, it's better than
stupid.
Better than me limping around with gout. Gout's much more embarrassing. I'd rather have that great party story.
Yeah.
Well,
you have plenty of great stories.
Yeah,
though.
But not a party story. Well, speaking of that party, what's the best party you've ever been to?
Geez, that's a tough one. Oh man, it's weird. Like, I threw a party that might have been the greatest party ever, but the parents were out of town, and we had a key to the house, and it got out of hand so badly that we did $160,000 in damage to a $140,000 house. And it was a complete fucking disaster. And but I had to get out of there, and thank God one of the girls signed a contract with us, so they knew that we had the key, because we weren't like arrested. I mean, we were arrested, but we didn't get charged.
Wait, it was somebody else's house?
It was somebody else's home. Yeah, they went out of town and gave my friend Dan and I a key and said, "Hey," it was one of the daughters. They were like, "You can have a few friends over to smoke pot." And this is, of course, then turned into somebody calling somebody to somebody to somebody to somebody. Yeah. And then I'm driving back from work, and I'm working at this restaurant. And I'm not kidding you, man. As I walk up, I see a TV get launched out the top floor window and shatter on the driveway.
Oh, God.
Two of my friends got arrested for grand theft auto for stealing the cars and driving down the dope streets. And then the whole house was ruined, man. And the next day I came in, and like people took axes to shit, like everything in they put this. I swear on my life, and I will never understand it. The fireplace, like the chimney in the inside, was pulled out of the wall into the family room. I don't know how it happened. I to this day, it's just I have no clue how they managed to do this. And like, everything was ruined, man. I felt so bad. Like, every picture was destroyed. Things were set on fire. And it's like, people hail that as the greatest party ever. And I felt so bad. 'Cause like, I'm going in, and I'm like, "Hey, we should." All right, I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
I didn't have anything to do with this. And the next day, when I went to clean up, cops came in, and we explained, like, "Look, we heard this happened. We're vacuuming and shit." Mm-hmm. So the cops kind of realize it's not our fault. Like, we're obviously trying to do the right thing, and they let us go. But yeah, dude, this house was like leveled, and the whole thing was redone.
And the girl's probably still grounded.
Oh, dude, she was sent to like a fucking what do you call that?
A girls' home? Or?
Yeah, like a boarding school for the rest of high school. And I was still good friends with her little sister, and I explained, like, look, I was at work, like my whole story checked out for us to still be friends. But at the same time, it's like, I remember seeing her at a bar like years later, the older sister, and I was like, I'm really sorry. She's like, let's just not talk about it. I'm like, okay.
See, that makes your car theft nothing. Wrecking the car into the tree.
Oh, dude, that was only, God, I think $13,000 in damage at the time.
Yeah, that's nothing.
Yeah, it's been a drop in the bucket compared to everything somebody's ever worked for.
Yeah.
Like, I felt so bad, dude.
Yeah,
and I still to this day.
Yeah, if you ever talk to her, tell her she needs to come on the podcast, because I'd love to hear if her parents even ever talked to her. I can't imagine. Yeah. I just want to know.
I remember, too, when they remodeled it, and we went over there one time to hang out, and I'm just walking around, and I'm with the younger sister, and I'm like, oh, it's a really nice-looking kitchen now. And she's like, are you serious? Like, you're going to... I'm like, all right, I'm sorry.
That's like straight out of a movie shit.
Dude, it was so fucking bad.
That's a lot. That's a good one.
Yeah, that one. So yeah, kind of that one, just because the story that came with it and how crazy and out of hand it got.
Yeah, it's awful. Well, that's a bad day for her. Who do you call when you have a bad day? Who's the person you call?
It would depend on which scenario, but I usually call my friend G, who I've known for 20-something years, and he's a really level-headed guy who kind of he's one of those people that were dealt a rough hand but never made it part of them, so you wouldn't know. He'd never bring it up, and he's worked very hard and he's very successful, but it's like, he definitely worked his whole life, and he's just a tough dude. And yeah, he's a guy who I can always talk to and go, okay, I feel better now, just by hearing some logic from somebody who's just kind of just no nonsense, no bullshit.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you kept your crew from Detroit still to this day. You guys are all still tight?
Yeah, we're all really good friends still. We see each other less, unfortunately, but all the time when we can, we'll get together, or I'll drive out and hang out at one of their houses, or at least we're like texting or something. But yeah, all my friends from high school, luckily, minus maybe one or two, because they're born again and don't want to, hang out with us, even though I'm sober. But it's like, yeah, a couple of them, sort of did that. We're all still very, very good friends.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Well, all right, I got one more question for you, but thank you so much for doing this. I know you're busy. Plug where everybody can find you real quick, will you?
Oh, yeah. Well, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, of course.
I really
awesome.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
DaveLandau.com. My new album, Nimble Fingers, is on anywhere where you can get music. And the Anthony Cumia Show with Dave Landau is Monday through Thursday on Compound Media. You can subscribe by downloading the Cumia Show app or compoundmedia.com. It's like old Opie and Anthony radio. It's just fun, comics hanging out, saying whatever they want. And if you're in town, I would really love to get you on the show.
Oh, I definitely. Next time I'm out there, I'd love to be on the show. It would be so cool. So hopefully I'll get out there once we get all this shit done. And you'll be back on the road once this shit's over, obviously.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
So, all right, well, we'll stay in touch. Well, thank you for doing this. I got one last question for you. If you could script your last words before you die, what would they be?
Oh, wow. That is a deep one. Probably be grateful.
Brandt Tobler trying to expand globally. Long curly hair and a beard, but he ain't Toby Keith. You might have thought it's beef, but we gon' handle that. Stealing jerseys off of the wall like fuck Vanderjack. Okay, he ran with that, and now he's on the loose. Put a little bit of poison in his Jamba Juice. Go ahead and drink on that, just take another sip. Need an appraisal? Shout out to Ron Huffin' Dick. The kids loving this, I know you heard it, son. The purpose is perfect, every person we learn something from. Go ahead and come along, we have a little fun. A few questions, how about 31?